Welcome to Data Types in Python. So in this video I will give an overview of the different types of data that you might have within a Python program and give you some examples of some of the more basic types in this video to get us started. So the data types that we'll be covering are vast. There's lots of different types of them. In particular, I want to talk in this presentation about numeric types of data. So that might be an integer, a whole number, a float, which is a decimal number, or a complex number. So if you've done any types of in-depth analytics or some mathematics, a complex number has a real and an imaginary part, and so that can be stored together in a variable in Python. Not important for this course, we're interested in integers and floats. We also have booleans. So a boolean could be true or false. It's essentially got two states. Now we use that to run different parts of the program depending on what we require at that time, depending on what is true or what is false. And we also have various sequence data types, and the one we're interested in is a string. Now the point that all of these data types have is that data is inserted into them and stored in them in a given order. So if you imagine a string, which is a bit of text, if that was presented in a random order, it wouldn't make sense. So that's why the sequencing is important. So in this presentation, we're going to do string, boolean, and integer and float. So what we want to do here is to learn a bit about what happens when I create a variable. So I can have all different types of data stored within my program, but I need to be able to identify that data, access it, and change it. So what happens is that in the computer program, I have a series of memory slots, effectively. So each of these boxes is a space in the computer's memory, and I can assign something to each of those spaces. So if I say that I want to use some memory to store something, a bit of data, that I am calling my name. So that's what's happened in this first part here. I've called that memory space my name, and inside it I've assigned a value, Rachel. So those double quotes are what tells the computer to treat it as a string, and it only puts in the string. So you'll note that the double quotes don't go in it. The double quotes are you just informing the computer, hey, this is a string. And I can have lots of different variables. So I've got my next variable set up, which is your name, and inside I've put a different string. This one is Andrew. So any time in my program that I want to get that information back, I can use my name or your name, because that's the identifier. That's the thing that I've called my variable, and the value is contained within it. I can do the same thing here with numbers. So I can create variables called something. In this case, I've created a variable called my age, and I've put inside that the value 21. So what's different on this slide compared to the previous one is that I don't have double quotes. So the reason I don't have double quotes is because it's not a piece of text. I want to be able to have that number 21 behave as a number within my program, so that I want to be able to do calculations on it, I want to add to it, subtract from it, etc. So I've created an integer, a whole number called my age, or I can use decimal numbers. In this case, something like money, total cost is £10.99, 10.99. So I don't specify when I create it what type of variable it is. all I'm telling the computer is I need a space in the memory to store something. Here is the name of the thing that I want to store, and I want you to set the value of that memory space to be, put inside it 21, 10.99, whatever you have after that equals, after that assignment. And the first time you do this, you might want to just print out that variable using the variable name just to make sure that it has actually worked, that what's in there, because what you should get in the console in the first example is my console should tell me 21, and in the second example the console should spit out 10.99. It's just a nice extra check to make sure that you're doing it right. Prove to yourself it works. A string then is a sequence of one or more characters. So what that means is every letter in every space, when combined together in a certain order, makes a string. So on the left side we have two examples. One is a string that contains Python, so that's 7 characters and each character is a letter. And then the second example I've written Python programming, and that's 18 characters, 17 letters and 1 space in the middle. So the crucial thing to remember here, it sometimes happens, you forget that there's a space. So if we're counting through a string later, bear in mind spaces are characters. So I would declare this variable in the exact same way as I would with a number. So I called something my name. We saw this before when I was talking about, what is a variable. So I've got that memory space, I've called it my name, and inside I want to put Rachel. And again, all I'm doing is printing it out to the screen just to make sure that all of my setup works. And as you become more confident in what you're doing, you can stop printing that out each time. Now, we know that a string is a sequence of something. It's a sequence of characters. And because a string contains individual characters, we can then identify those within the program. So if you imagine that this set of boxes, again, each one is a slot in the computer memory. Computers count from 0. That's really important. While this is 6 characters long, it's actually numbered 0 through to 5. And so I can identify any single character inside that using this index, this number here. So for example, this line here, var equals foobar, or var becomes foobar, is what I have used to create that memory allocation of FOOBAR. If I want to print a particular character from within that, I print var, that's the name of my variable, at index 3. So the computer will say, okay, you want to print something. Var, I know about var, here is var here. You want index 3. So that's 0, 1, 2, 3. And it will then print out what you've asked for, which is the item at index 3 of var, which is B, and that's what will appear in the console. Boolean variables are things that can be true or false. They are a binary option. It's one of two things, true or false. And these are used for logic within the program. So you can create programs that say, if this thing is true, do something. And if this thing is not true, do something. And you can use various versions of true or false to create quite a complex set of logic. So what are the things that we might want to do to check whether or not something is true or false? Think of all the things in life that you might check if something is true or false. So I've just got a few examples here. You can think of others. A bar wants to check if a customer is 18 or over. If customer is 18 is true, serve them a drink. A security guard might want to check if an ID is valid or not. So if the ID valid is a true statement, then open the door. If not, send the person away. And the way that we do this, or way we set up a Boolean value, is that we have our variable name. I've gone for var again. And we want to say bool and then true in brackets. And if you print that out, it will just print out true. You can try and change that to be false. Key things to look out for here: the first letter is capitalized. That will give it, in Colab, it will turn blue. And that means that you know for sure that it has worked, that it's recognized the Boolean. These things that have, they're reserved words, they're keywords inside Python. If you put a small t, it won't work. And again, print it out just to make sure the first time as you build experience working with variables.